You hear about this guy? The unofficial response to Trump's not State of the Union address, which got significantly more attention and accolades than the official one,
is through the concept of the big lie and boy.
Hold. Starting mid-sentence there, my man.
Is through the concept of the big lie, and boy, did we hear that tonight.
I think he hit the record button a little late there. Whatever. I really feel bad for Bernie Sanders, but he does give everyone else something to aspire to, right? Because Bernie Sanders, in addition to being the only motherfucker in Congress who wears a button-down collar that has a nice lapel roll, is like, you can tell so easily that he keeps having these like one more job than I'm retiring moments, where he was indicating he wasn't planning on running again for the Senate, and then when Trump won, he put in for running in the Senate again, because it's like, fuck it, I might be like 87, as long as I'm alive, who gives a shit, you know? We need me. He's been doing campaigning. He's like 100 years old, man. He's been getting so much more active lately, and I think it's because he realizes that there's literally no one else but him, you know? No one's picking up the slack. The whole point of the movement in 2016 was like, even if he lost to Hillary Clinton, the whole point was like, you know, somebody please, God, pick up the slack. Let my man rest. But no one has. Bernie is that 190-year-old on Medicaid Trump mentioned last night. You know it.
You say something that is grossly false, say it over and over again, and have right-wing social media blast it out endless times until people actually believe it.
You know what I love watching like liberals who cope about Bernie? They're like, I don't get it. Why you get angry when Democrats make these points about Trump lying and Trump stealing and Trump like violating the law, but then when Bernie Sanders does it, you appreciate it? Like, what's the difference? Why are you just like hypocritical against liberals? And the answer is Bernie means it, the Democrats don't. And then you know, and that's it. And it's literally true. That's it. When they make the same points, the difference is that Bernie Sanders means it and the Democrats don't. And you know for a fact, like in their heads, the response to that is not like, we need to mean it. Their response is, how do we sound like we mean it more? And that's why they keep losing. That's why they keep losing. They're too committee brain, man.
And then, rather than address the real issues facing the American people, the struggles that the American people are facing, we find ourselves wasting endless amounts of time discussing Trump's absurdities. Let me just give you a very few examples. Trump claimed that the 2020 election was stolen from him and that he won by a landslide. Remember that? A lie. Trump claimed that the January 6th insurrection was a day of love. A lie. Trump has claimed that millions of undocumented people voted and do vote in American elections. A lie. Trump has claimed that climate change is a hoax originating in China. A lie. Trump has claimed that Ukraine started the horrific war with Russia. A lie. And tonight, just tonight, Trump claimed that millions of dead people between the ages of 100 and 360, I guess, were collecting Social Security checks. And that is an outrageous lie intended to lay the groundwork for cuts to Social Security and dismantling the most successful and popular government program in history. So
did he get a dental procedure done? He sounds like he's got something in his mouth. Yeah, to be honest, it is a little bit triggering for me to listen to. Not triggering in that way. If Bernie wasn't denied the Democratic primary in 2016, there'd be no such thing as Trump. That's true. He old? His dentures are falling out? I mean, that's like a thing, right? It's better than the CIA bitch that was just on. Well, I mean, come on. Don't denigrate Bernie Sanders by pretending that there's even, like, don't even mention them in the same goddamn sentence. Look, it's just, Bernie Sanders is great, but he's also not necessarily what we need right now. I maintain that any real opposition to what is happening to this country and what is happening to the world will need to be absolutely ruthless and cutthroat. Okay? It's not a matter of Bernie Sanders being ideologically compromised. He's not even a little bit. He's a guiding light in that respect. It's about, you need a certain level of vindictiveness, but Vosh, there's literally no one else. Guys, he's not becoming president, okay? He's not becoming president. Stop asking me who I think should run in 2028. Right now, no one works. There is no one on earth who I think I would consider even a remotely acceptable Democratic presidential candidate who would have my backing in 2028. Things need to change. So we're just awesome? Yeah, obviously. Have you been paying attention? Ralph Nader? Ah. No, you need someone with the sauce. You need someone with main character energy. You need someone with a bit of bombast, you know? When I say nobody, I don't understand why you guys are rebutting that by, like, have you considered this popular politician who you've obviously considered and has been mentioned 50 times in the past minute? What do you mean? You just want me to comment on everyone? No. Nobody. Literally nobody works, including Bernie. Not just for his age either, but I think that vindictiveness is very, very, very important.
Not one word over 90-minute speech, not one word from you about the healthcare crisis that is impacting many, many millions of our people. Nor did I hear you say why we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Sometimes.
How do we make someone that works? Serious question. You need a main character. It's literally just that. In a era of populism and social media engagement, where people are deeply dissatisfied with the status quo and very like personality driven. People really like personality cults are basically how you get ahead these days. There's no getting around it. You need somebody who can be a main character. You need somebody who's mean, vindictive, always willing to rise to the challenge. You need somebody who's willing to treat the Democrats and the Republicans both like shit beneath their shoe. That's one of the main problems. The Democratic Party is an obstacle between us and victory here. Like they are not, like right now in the form of Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer, they are direct obstacles. Like they, not just like Pelosi was one thing, okay? Pelosi, no one can deny Pelosi is a very intelligent woman and very evil. Pelosi, her games are measured in centuries. She had her moments. For the most part, she was an oppositional force. The problem is that Schumer and primarily Hakeem Jeffries, they are being told to prevent any leftward movement within the Democratic Party. Now, I think that Pelosi was 100% in that bend as well, but Pelosi was also very intelligent. I don't think Hakeem Jeffries is smart at all. Honestly, he looks like, he looks bewildered every time I see him. Every time I see him in a press conference, I haven't heard a smart word out of him once. Pelosi, as contemptible a woman as she is, it takes like 5 minutes of looking at her and, you know, listen to her talk or whatever, and you're like, okay, she's evil, but she has an idea of what's going on. Hillary Clinton, too, to a large extent. She hates you, but she's not stupid. Hakeem Jeffries? No. No. So I think that it's probably a combination of him being beholden to donors and also him being bewildered and utterly incapable of thinking of a solution to these problems. It doesn't help that he's the new guy, too, right? He's really young. So if you think about it from his perspective, it's like, wow, I just got the job and now the country's falling apart. And all the seniors above me, all the people who could give me advice, like you've got like donors, you've got like Schumer, you know, it's no light through the end of the tunnel. You need a main character, someone who's willing to cut right through both parties and somehow still secure the funding necessary to become president, in spite of spurning, you know, both sides of the opposition. Speaking of low IQ, the people in chat who are still saying, like, what about AOC? What about Walz? What about Jon Stewart? Do you not see the other people in chat say that? You can see chat's on screen. So even if you're not looking at chat moment to moment, you can see in the bottom left corner, there are other people who are saying things and you're actually not contributing to the conversation when prior people have said the exact thing that you are now saying. You're just sort of like contributing static. You're contributing noise, you know? It's pretty rough. It's a rough situation. What about Shifty Schiff? You know, speaking of people with main character energy, what is this video from Jasmine Crockett? I actually haven't seen it. I just have it up in my tabs list.
Oh no! It's a cultural divide. I'm gonna get it on the floor.
Oh, I get it. We're doing a bit.
You really about to do it? Yeah, they try.
All right, I get it. Not that kind of sauce. Damn, 18,000 comments, 42,000 likes. Good song, though. The GOP will love that one. I think that Maxine Waters could stand to be... We do need Democrats to be more mean. She has more sauce than most of them, but I don't think it's informed. I don't think it's ideologically informed enough. Is there analysis of why the Democratic Party seemed to work until LBJ? Because Reagan won. Literally, that's it. Aren't the Dems moving to the right anyway? Yeah, which guarantees that they're going to continue losing. Reagan won and the conservatives have been trying to replicate that everywhere. Well, no, it's not that necessarily. Reagan won overwhelmingly through treason, like the meddling with the Iran-Contra hostage affair being the most obvious one. Or not Iran-Contra hostage affair, sorry, the Iranian hostage affair, Iran-Contra being the other. He was a treasonous piece of shit who deliberately, like, fucked other people over to win. Yeah, I mixed the two up. Fuck you. And he won so overwhelmingly that Democrats stopped fighting back on the economic issues afterwards. Reagan won by huge margins. Like, you can go look at the election results. I mean, it's like every damn state, but 2 or whatever, I don't remember. He won by a huge margin. And this was despite him being like a senile piece of shit monster who backed fascists, broke the law, contributed to the genocide of gay people. Terrible, terrible man. And a bad president, too. Ballooned the debt, the deficit. But he was so successful in spite of it, and so popular, that the Democrats gave up on fighting back against his economic message. Bill Clinton basically just did Reagan economics, but more effectively, which is why we had a budget surplus under Bill Clinton, you know? Now, I'm not saying Bill Clinton's economic policies were good, but he administrated them far more competently than Republicans ever have. And we briefly had a surplus for like the only time. But it was basically the end of like Keynesianism, economic populism, and so and so. From that point forward, after Ronald Reagan, the battle was codified as, how do we keep the exact same system while battling over other issues? Because we can't battle over the economy. We can't, like, Democrats and Republicans both understood that the underlying system, Wall Street accumulation, you know, private equity, so on and so forth, was so important to so many powerful people who funded both sides of the aisle. Like, both sides of the campaign were funded entirely, basically, by donors aligned with these interests, that they agreed, we can't touch these issues. We'll fight over social issues. And you can see there's a marked shift in the, I would say, depth of the arguments that you see between political candidates from that point forward. How fundamentally do they criticize each other's positions? Because a lot more was on the table back in the 1930s and 40s, right? Back when FDR was president and when he kept winning, people were having much more fundamental conversations about our economic system. People were willing to challenge deeper roots. Not anymore. And it's still like that. And then, of course, in 2016, you know, we're kind of running the ground again. The system is obviously kind of like, it's not satisfying people's needs. Accumulation has to continue. The wealth inequality is increasing and increasing and increasing every single year. More is being held by a smaller number of people at the top every single year, year over year for decades. And we're reaching kind of a breaking point where it's like so much wealth is held at the top of society. The foundations are getting kind of broken. Like, you know, back in the 1980s, the 1990s, wealth inequality, don't get me wrong, it was a real issue. But people were not as anxious about the future back then as they are now, which is crazy considering the fact that the Cold War was still on during the 1980s. Back then, the economic anxiety about the future, people nowadays don't think they're going to... This is why no one has kids. No one can afford a house. No one can afford college education or whatever. Every system's been bled out to the highest possible level of like monetary extraction. Everything is about funneling upward, but there's already so much upward, you run out of stuff to funnel. It used to be like, what, 10% of the country's wealth is held in the top 1%. Now it's like 50% or more. It's more and more and more. Eventually, you just run out of stuff to funnel. So in an environment like that, how do you convince people to keep voting for you when both sides of the aisle are touting basically the same economic policy? Obama was the last hope for this, by the way. Obama, hope and change. What did he change? Jack shit. Okay, sure. Affordable Care Act. You know, that's great. What really changed? Like, economically, not really anything. They didn't prosecute the people responsible for the subprime mortgage crisis. It was an economic downturn that f***ed over billions of people around the world, and they didn't do anything. There was no punishment. You remember in 2009? The people wanted those Wall Street executives, those banking execs, brought to the Capitol Mall, and people were very angry. People were like frothing at the mouth. They were bloodthirsty as hell, and Obama did nothing. Why? Well, you really don't want to normalize the idea that there are consequences to doing that kind of thing. You know, you really don't want that. Like, that's, again, who funds these elections, right? It sure as shit not you small dollar donos. 2016 comes around. Bernie Sanders proves that you can run a successful national campaign off of small dollar donos. The Democrats make an effort to supplant his campaign because the Bernie Sanders represents the first in decades real challenge to the underlying system. But the Republicans have their own challenge too. What if, rather than keeping things middle of the road, you know, you've got Clinton, Bush, Obama, what if we lean into hard right populism? Not the first time it's been done. It's been done all around the world at different points of economic crisis. This is what happened with the Nazis, et cetera, et cetera. Economic anxiety, social anxiety, you capitalize on all of them, you make an in-group, you make an out-group, and you win based on fear. It's a big difference, too, because if you go back and you watch, like, John McCain, Mitt Romney, George Bush, even though these guys are pieces of shit, right, they still marketed themselves as believers in the American dream. They were, you know, you go watch them and they're like, I believe in the American people. I believe in the American dream and the small business owner. You know, the way they talk like Democrats. They talk like how Democrats talk today. Trump doesn't talk like that. Trump doubled down on the fear and the hatred and the so on. And that's why he won, because people are actually really sick of hearing year after year the same canned message from every politician as things slowly get worse and worse and worse. It's the same message every time. It's a bipartisan message. So the Democrats are still locked in that old system. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are both invested in preventing their constituents, their elected officials, the people underneath them, from pushing against it because they don't want, you know, a Bernie Sanders situation. They don't want any real challenge. But Bernie Sanders proved you could make it far just off small dollar donos. Sorry, I don't know why. I don't know what prompted me to do like a full recap of American politics over the past like 45 years. I don't remember what prompted this. I'm sorry. Yes, Bernie also proved it could be done in 2020, 100%. Someone asked when the Democrats became cucks. What I'm trying to say here is that Democrats haven't become cucks. They've always been like this, and the Republicans were like this too. The reason Democrats are coming across as cucks now is because they're still bewildered at the idea that anything could have broken the dynamic they had going on for so long. That's the reason why all of the worst Democrats are Bill Clinton, New York Democrats. Those are the ones that keep letting us down. Why? Because Bill Clinton was the one that codified the Democratic half of this strategy. After Bush Sr. and Reagan, the Clintonites were the ones that like cemented their end of this deal. Then why aren't we forming a new party? Sure, go for it. Go right ahead. Good luck getting the funding. You want to win the presidency without the powers that be backing you? This is the most powerful country in the world. Billions of dollars run through every election. Does the squad still exist? Nah, not really. I mean, like nominally, sure, but not meaningfully. Funding and captured media, yeah. Do you think the Republicans will win in 2028? As things are right now, yes. Whatever happens in 2028, yes. Whether or not Trump's alive or dead or whatever, you know, at the moment, yes. That's the trajectory. You know, you can't see the future. Something could change, but that is the current trajectory. Really, it seems Republicans will ruin America. You still think they'd win? Yes.